This week on the Good Girls podcast, our room is the G-spot. Call me Mr. Flintstone. I can make your bed rock, girl. The whole time I was reading this, Kay, or I was researching this, do you know the Young Money song?
Yes,
Call
I
me
know
Mr.
exactly what you're talking
Flintstone.
about.
Okay, for copyright reasons, Good Girls does not have the budget to purchase the rights
Any
to this
music
song
at all, not even the
or any
lamest.
any music whatsoever. So, just log into your Spotify account and be playing that gently
Call
in the
me Mr.
background.
Flintstone.
I can make your bed rock, girl. All right, so diving in. Gonna talk about the G-spot this week, Kay.
I'm skeptical about the G-spot.
Kay and I grew up Cosmo girls, so there's definitely a lot in the Cosmo lore, and I'm not keeping up on my latest Cosmo. So I did find a 2023 article in Cosmo. They're still talking about the G-spot, and they said 24% of their readers said that they had what they considered a G-spot
Oh,
orgasm.
that makes me feel so much better. It's only 24% that had a G-spot orgasm. Now, granted, their readers might be like teenagers, so I don't know what that means, but
Yeah, so we'll dive a little bit into the research.
definitely
Although I gotta say,
addressable.
if you're having an orgasm and you're enjoying yourself and you feel like you need to come up with a particular name for it, then by all means, enjoy your sex life. Before we get too science heavy, Kay, though, I wanted to kick things off lightly. Before our scientific literature review, I would like the smut lit review and some of your maybe favorite moments from the smut referring to the G spot. Do we feel like it gets mentioned a lot?
So, do I think it gets mentioned by name a lot? No, not by name, but I think that to me, in a lot of books, they have it that there seems to be a specific area in the
Mm-hmm.
vaginal wall that this extremely skilled men can get to. And I look no farther than Fourth Wing, where there's such a big deal about Aiden curling his effing fingers while fingering her. And like I've
Oh,
never and
wow.
I was curious enough that I was like, "Mr. K, can you like try curling your fingers?" And then I was like, "Oh my God, stop."
I feel like there would be scratching. Is there not
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure his nails are I'm sure he doesn't have, like, long fingernails,
Perfectly
but
groomed nails, but it's still just
even
not
still,
uncomfortable. Like, you don't want, like, a penis to be rougher and a little bit more callous and then, like, bend within your vagina.
I mean, some men have some curvature. Your favorite porn star guy,
Oh my
LaCroix,
gosh,
what's his
Stephen
Lacroix?
Stephen St. Croix?
Oh, yeah. So I feel like he's
Yeah.
got a notable bend. So I feel like maybe part of the G-spot myth is that it gives meaning to those men with a serious bend out there, that it's like you were given this boomerang penis for a purpose because it might just be the right size and vector to really be able to stimulate the G-spot. And then that could be the source of Stephen St. Croix's fame and
Yeah, so he is a definite boomerang, just to be clear, to people who might not be fans of Stephen St. Croix. There's a big boomerang
it's not
penis
too
there.
late to
Yeah, no,
Google some of
to
his
Google
works.
him, I highly recommend the one where he is the father-in-law. It is a favorite of mine. It's so, it's like watching like Mean Girls once a year. I gotta watch that video once every 3 months or so. So yeah, the curling, and I've actually have read books recently where they have described a guy's penis as having, the main character star who's like tall and handsome and broody and muscular, and they've described the penis as
Uh-huh.
having a slight curve to it,
Oh,
which I thought is interesting. Maybe they're also Stephen St.
just
Croix fans, as fellow boomerang penis fans. So, yes, there is a chance that, like, the bend matters. Do I think that the curling of the fingers, and again, this is a recurring theme throughout Fourth Wing books. It is not just a one-off mention. It is like his like ex-lover comes in the picture and she's like, "Does he do that thing with his fingers to you that I taught him?" So like the curl, and I'm sure that because Rebecca Yarros did it, and that's an extremely popular book, we're going to see the curl more often in like other, slightly copied books, not copy, but
Yeah,
borrowing books down the lane.
yeah,
So
inspired
that,
by the
yeah.
works of Xaden Ryerson
And then just, like,
and his
2
curling
things.
fingers.
I've also seen a lot of, like, squeezing of penises described in there, and I know that's separate from G-spots, but I did just wanna give it a mention that, like, can we not use the word squeeze for his penis to, like, start off things? Like, "I gave his penis a quick squeeze." I
Okay,
don't
that just
know.
sounds like in
I'm
high
just imagining,
school.
like
Well, also, that makes me think of high school and guys calling a hand job a squeezer. Be
ugh.
like, "Oh, she just, like, gave him a quick squeezer behind the chin." It's just
No,
like,
I never want the word, like, squeeze with penis. It's just like, how tight are we squeezing here? Is a penis okay? Like, I don't like the word squeeze. And then also I've seen the word look way too many times, and this all started with an ill-fated journey into a book that was literally like the billionaire guy saw the young single mom breastfeeding in a grocery store and all he could think about was their milk and
Oh,
that
this
he,
is
like, had
breeder kink
babysitter,
stuff.
all
Why
that.
does everything come back to breeder
Breeder kink.
kinks, Kay?
Why I the last thing I wanted to think about when I was breastfeeding was being, like, the sexual object of another person who wanted like, breastfeeding is beautiful and loving and all that, and I couldn't
I agree. I feel
not
like then
sexual.
that really took the titties out of the equation when I was breastfeeding, and that's really the only time in my life I did the movie people thing, where if it's not like a total like R-rated movie, that they
Have a
always have
bra
sex with
on.
the bra on for some reason. That was the period in my life that I was having sex with the
Yeah, we don't
bra
wanna be,
on
like,
because I don't know, like
leaking milk.
leaking. Yeah. Well, anyway, so
So anyways, I'm sorry, but yeah, I could go back to G-spot now. I just felt like while talking about how the curling the
other
fingers
things
bothers
that
me.
other
Yeah.
things that bother Kay.
And Bridgerton books are very big on, like, that they just all have vaginal orgasms, so I'm gonna assume that there's some G-spot action happening there.
I guess there has to be, but yeah, we will get into a lot the whole concept that men, especially, and people who have male directed ideas of female pleasure, have this real focus on the vaginal orgasm. And my theory from reading this is that it's a very important thing to men throughout history because basically then it allows the source of the orgasm to be a guy just really reaming you with his huge dick instead of,
Sledgehammering,
yeah.
jackhammering, that's what they use, yeah.
Jackhammering is
Yeah.
one that we often see in the literature, and it really takes out of the equation getting to know the particular woman's body, pleasure that is not just so jackhammery, basically. And so I think that that's why we see a lot of this vaginal orgasm stuff appear to be so important to so-called researchers, sexologists, anatomists throughout history, Freud himself, Big Papa, because I really do believe it's because of their obsession with their penis and just sticking it
I don't
in
think we can
things and
give
having that
Freud
be the
Big
magic wand.
Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I yes, I agree with
I
everything
just
else.
mean, like, how much he's referenced, not that we think that he is a big papa in our
Yes.
m in our
Yes.
in the good
He
girls
is a big
mythology.
papa in the discussion, but he is
Yes.
not our big papa.
He is
He is
not
not my
he is not our
daddy.
daddy. We do
Yeah.
not call him daddy.
Yeah, there are other daddies, and he is not one of them.
That's actually a really great segue to talk about our fascination in history with the vaginal orgasm. And TLDR, science basically concludes that this is a dumb question. So we'll start with
Mhm.
Alfred Kinsey. He is the Kinsey of the Kinsey scale fame. It's the idea that everybody's sexuality exists on a continuum and you're not just either gay or
Oh,
straight.
yes, and I do like that.
I
Yeah.
like that too. I love it. So he is one of the important people for breaking down this Freudian era concept of a female orgasm and like the focus on the vaginal orgasm as being the highest form of orgasm. And he does this by actually studying women, which this will have a few throwbacks to our previous episode about the anatomy and the history of women's orgasms. A lot of this also comes from the book Vagina Obscura by Rachel Gross. So again, an excellent book. We are mostly going to focus on the G spot, but in order to understand that, you do have to understand a little bit more about the anatomy of the clitoris. So he actually studies women. If you remember from the previous episode, Freud did not think that was worth his while, nor did a bunch of the ancient Greek guys.
Mhm.
So we're now talking about early half of the 20th century by the time we finally get around to this idea of let's actually look at women and talk to them. So he's the heir in research to this guy named Dr. Robert Latoux or Latow Dickinson, who did a lot of gynecological research that moved the field forward in the 1930s ish. It's very focused. He's an Episcopalian and he's very focused on what is a normal sex life for a white hetero family and making sure that everybody's playing their roles, which at least in his concept of this, does include female pleasure or lack
Hmm.
thereof.
Normal is just a hard word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's very obsessed with
There's
normalcy and
also
like
just, like,
trying
a
to
lot
figure
of
that out.
variation. Like, things change week to week, month to month, depending on what's going on.
Exactly. Even within the field of who he's researching, which is pretty much exclusively white, hetero, middle class, upper middle class couples. So even within his less varied group of people, there is still a lot of variety. And yeah, he's trying to
It's incredible variety.
more bring it in together instead of appreciate the wide variety there. So he is shocked. I would imagine the women at the time were not. How little women are enjoying their marital sex lives. How many of them would you guess, what percent are achieving regular orgasm with their spouse in his 1931 report?
Oh, I don't know. I always go very pessimistic with these. 10%?
Oh, this time you were optimistic. It was 2% are achieving
Oh.
regular orgasm. And
Oh,
so
how far we've come.
I know.
Yeah.
And so there's still some gaps, but I guess it's like
Still
when you look
gaps.
at
We're
like
definitely not that bad.
within like, my great-grandmother is still alive, like, kinda within her lifetime, how much of this has changed, and this is, of course, still the period where they're, like, very into missionary as, like, being the best kind of sex, so that's probably a huge part of why you are not achieving orgasm. Because if you are gonna have an orgasm from vaginal penetration alone, it's probably not going to be in the missionary position. But here's what I do find surprising for the 1930s. Two-thirds of women are masturbating at this time, are reporting to him that they're
Well, I
masturbating.
wonder if they need to masturbate then even more than now.
Seriously, that
Because their husbands don't know what they're doing.
legit, that's the only orgasm that you're going to get unless you're this, like, lucky 2% of ladies
That's
that
'cause I feel like I have a good choice, especially, with Mr. K working from home. Like, I can take the energy to go and interrupt from work, or I can handle it myself, but, like, I know that I will
options.
reach completion in
Yeah,
both ways.
yeah. And especially, I would imagine with the husbands at this time, which based on some of the things I'm reading from him, really didn't know like they're, fucking one end from the other in this whole situation.
Definitely did
So
not know the
I feel like
clitoris.
they would just be like muddling around in there for like 20 minutes or so, and
Uh,
then you could just finish yourself off in a lot less time. So he does come to the conclusion that we need to be focusing on the clitoris. And so he contributes a lot by like measuring, illustrating, and observing the female anatomy. As he's getting to retirement age, he bequeaths his research legacy to Kinsey, who I think is a big leap forward. He is a bisexual man, and somebody at the time in Gross's book says that he studies human sexuality the way a biologist would study biological phenomena. And that's important because pretty much everybody leading up to this has had some agenda about finding out what is normal sex, like why are women hysterical, and associating particular values, and then trying to come up with research that supports whatever more moral conclusions you've already drawn on the topic. This is particularly because like the perspective at the time is this like focus on vaginal orgasm, is this preference for the missionary position. So Kinsey publishes a few books, but to talk about
hmm.
his 1953 sexual behavior of the human female, while groundbreaking for its time, is still all white women. He again finds that most are masturbating frequently, and half of married women in this 19 his book have had sex before betrothal, which
Oh,
I'm impressed by because I feel
yeah.
like what gets put out there in terms of the media or how the history of that
Yeah, I
era is
definitely would have
portrayed,
guessed lower
I
than
would have guessed
half.
way lower versus what people are actually reporting in an anonymous capacity.
Huh, but they're probably not even orgasming from their premarital sex.
Probably
Though
not.
I guess a lot of people weren't orgasming in their, like, teenager and early 20s sex.
Yeah, that's fair. Although I feel like by our era, maybe there's like again, our like Cosmo Girls era, there's a little bit more focus on the man like having some attempt at foreplay if he's going to try to woo a woman, which would be less expert in your like high school, college years, but there's
The eagerness is there, but the expertise is not.
exactly. And it makes you wonder about the older women who do have the relationships with younger men because it's like other than maybe if you enjoy the puppy dog like energy, I feel like having to explain to the
Yeah, are
younger
they
man like
teaching?
the details. I don't know, maybe some women like doing the like teacher kind of thing is like gets him off a
Hmm,
bit.
I wonder.
I have
I've been
never been
thinking
in a
about
May
what would
December
my life
romance,
be
so
like in my, post Mr. K life, if he were to die in the next 5 years or so. I think I would probably go older. I don't know.
yeah, I don't think I would go significantly younger, especially because once you have kids, I feel like it's the same issue for a mom or a dad remarrying, that there's just some weird dynamics when your significant other is the same age as your kids. That's just weird
Yeah, well, I wasn't
for
gonna look
them.
for a 6-year-old.
No, I
No, I know, just kidding.
ew. True. So I love this quote from the book. He says, "It is true that the average female responds more slowly than the average male in coitus, but this seems to be due to the ineffectiveness of the usual coital techniques." Serious burn of the husbands at the time.
Yeah, very politely worded.
I know,
Burn.
it's like a nice 1950s research book way of saying
I like the
men
idea of saying that to men
can't
in my
find
20s.
the
Yeah.
fucking clitoris.
Yeah. You have, questionable coitus techniques.
We should try that out on somebody. "Sir, I have found your coital techniques to be somewhat lacking."
Lacking.
Meanwhile
All men have Bridgerton. This is a serious
that's
issue
true.
for you. You go straight to vaginal penetration. You just dip a finger in to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, probably to just check that her hymen is still intact.
Ugh.
Another myth that we will get to in a future episode. So he does notice that women can orgasm just fine on their own, breaking a little bit the idea that women need all this time to build up to an orgasm. He's observing that they can often reach an orgasm in under 5 minutes. And in the conversations with them, that it is due more to like clitoral and labial stimulation, and that they're basically like not doing a lot of penetration. He also notices that women who have sex with other women have much better results, presumably because their partner knows their way around a clitoris and the importance of focusing there. Again, we don't have the fascination with just like ramming things up the vagina. So, important observation, especially when we get to a period in history where we are allowed to talk about lesbians existing. So, he throws out this idea that Freud has this focus on the importance of vaginal stimulation, which I think I mentioned in the previous episode. Freud's like very obsessed with the idea of like a vaginal orgasm versus a
The
clitoral
weakness.
orgasm.
Yeah.
Yeah, as like
The
yeah,
vaginal
getting away from like
trigger.
your childhood focus on your like little tiny penis and like embracing your full womanhood by enjoying the fullness and the depth of the vaginal orgasm. So Kinsey also burns Freud by being like, Freud theorized about women. I studied them. Um,
Go Kinsey. Ooh.
yes.
You're not the
And
best, but you're better.
he's better. I mean, we're just like baby steps forward. So he says it's difficult in the light of our present understanding of the anatomy and physiology of sexual response to understand what can be meant by a vaginal orgasm. And then the famous sex experts Masters and Johnson continue to pick this up in their 1966 book, Human Sexual Response, and ask if there's any measurable difference between a vaginal orgasm and a clitoral orgasm. Luckily, by the 60s, we have all kinds of sweet technology to figure this out. One of their tools was a camera mounted on a dildo, which I'm actually really impressed that in 1966
That's kind of awesome.
that we had like that level of technology, because it's like not a digital camera. It's like this transparent glass
Oh, okay.
dildo looking thing. So they created it to observe the internal anatomical changes in a woman during sexual arousal and orgasm. And they say that you might feel the contractions of an orgasm. So they measure that there are all these really close together micro contractions. You might feel them in the outer vagina, the uterus, or the anus. But no matter where you feel it, the sensation always goes back to the clitoris. So they note that there is a lot of literature about the two different types of orgasm, but they conclude that anatomically, there's no difference.
I'm just surprised that they're saying no difference, but I don't know.
So let's go into a little bit more. Our understanding of the clitoris continues to grow throughout the 20th century. And then into the 21st century, we have Dr. Helen O'Connell come along, who is a delightful personality who does record videos and TED Talks and stuff. She's still practicing in Australia, where she was the first woman urologist and is a pioneering clitoris cartographer. Also, she talks a lot, like her TEDx talk is on being on clitoracy. Um,
Oh, okay. I like clitoracy a lot.
I like clitoracy a lot, and I think that I need to have a whole episode about clitoracy. But to get back to the specifics of the clitoris as it relates to the G spot, she is one of the first people to really delve into this, and that's partially by doing dissections of the pelvic area of women, which nobody has done before. And there's a lot of like, oh, well, we can't really like research the female anatomy because too much of it is tucked internal, which is fascinating to me because I feel like that's not an excuse about the human heart or like your digestive system. But this has been the excuse for like all of time up until she starts doing her doctoral thesis, which was published in 2004.
Yeah, it actually makes no sense because it's not like from the penis alone, we know that much about it from its, like, external experience.
I know, it's not like we just sit there,
Yeah.
like, looking at dicks and we're like, "Alright, we know everything that we need
Yeah,
to know about
I
this."
totally understand urology now.
Yeah, exactly. So she doesn't have a lot to build on other than like some early anatomical work about this where they're trying to illustrate them, but they're always looking at it from the outside. There are some particularly notable women researchers, this like fun little coven of American women who formed a feminist health group to dig in, and they didn't have any cadavers that they could do research on, so they like observed each other's
Oh,
vaginas.
yes, we learned about
I mentioned that
like,
one
the
too,
super
yes.
crunchy
So,
ones, yeah.
yes, including, like, one masturbating to orgasm in front of an illustrator to allow for illustration in each stage of arousal.
Huh.
Which makes me wanna, like, get into the whole thing with, like, One Taste? And they did that, like, Orgasm Inc. documentary about it on Netflix. I was like, "We need to do a whole other episode about that because that's, like, people orgasming on stage, but for, like, meditative tantric purposes, supposedly.
Huh.
Okay, so we have to do a whole other
Okay.
episode about that.
I wonder if you need to have, like, a little bit of voyeurism in you to, like, be able to do that,
I
or
feel
if
like
you
you
just, like, zone
absolutely
out?
have to because otherwise you'd, like, get stage fright and clam up.
Yeah, don't know if I would clam up, but nor would I clam open. I don't
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like
know.
it's one of those things that you don't really know till you, like, really try it. I think,
So
like,
we
the
should
rubber
just,
meets the
like,
road.
book a show and
Well,
yeah.
not anymore. I
Free
feel like with
tickets
the
because we can't
one taste thing,
guarantee.
she's, like, in jail now or
Oh,
something that
okay.
you gotta watch the
Well,
whole
I definitely don't wanna be in jail.
No, not because of the public orgasms, because of
Okay.
the whole thing with her company. Um, so O'Connell actually does dissections, like layer by layer. She works with somebody who specializes in like small scale dissections to like slowly start to like peel away all the layers because this is basically uncharted territory, which is why I feel like she's like a true cartographer of our time. And then they cross check all their findings with MRIs as well to kind of get a sense of like where all the blood flow is.
Oh my
Um,
god, she's looked at so many vaginas.
she has looked at so many vaginas, and I was watching her TED Talk, and she has, like her office is just full of, like, different clitoral models, and somebody made her, like, sewed, like, an upholstery pillow stuffy version of a vagina and all the surrounding parts that is a pillow, but you can, like, take it apart to see all of the different parts. Because basically, the conclusion is that is incredibly important when you're talking about this part of the body to be understanding it in 3 dimensions and not just drawings in a textbook. Because the clitoris is not just the very small part that is external to the body, but it's this whole organ or a set of organs that wraps around the vagina. And there is on here a 3 dimensional model. Describe what you're seeing. I feel like if you're watching at home, you may also just want to Google 3D model of clitoris. Kinda like a bird shape, except that the body part of the bird is, like, split apart into 2 bulbs, but it has, like, long wings and then, like, a little swan neck that curves and
Yeah.
hooks, and that,
So,
like, swan head is the face is, like, part of the clitoris that's the
yeah.
glans clitoris.
So I was imagining it more like when you go to an arcade and there's enough animals and you can use the crane
Oh, yeah, yeah,
to
the
pick it
claw.
up. It kinda looks like the claw, but with
Oh.
little thicker claw pieces.
Yeah, a little bit more bulbous, little,
Yeah,
like,
a little softer.
things on the claws. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
So yeah, it's this whole organ that wraps around the vagina and the urethra, and that the whole thing is made out of erectile tissue. So basically, the total size turns out to be at least twice of
that's
what anatomy textbooks at the time were showing.
I guess, like, I've never taken a camera to my clitoris, and my clitoris is the one that I have the
You
most
don't have a dildo
experience
cam
with.
either.
No, I don't use a dildo camera, but I do feel like it gets swollen or its own little baby form of, like, act.
Yes,
Yes, when it's there,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes, I have heard ladies describe the clit boner before, so that is true. It's
Yeah,
like
I feel like it's a clip boner, and, like, 'cause, like, when you have the clip boner that something feels really good, and when you don't have the clip boner yet, you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
maybe do a
Well,
few
it
more
is
things
made out of the
then.
same erectile tissue as what's in the penis. And going back to the idea that when we start out, we all have this similar stuff that either turns into what we understand as the female genitalia or the male, or, if intersex, like some other combination. And so it is like basically that same erectile tissue, kind of answering these early male scientists, anatomists that were like, oh, the clitoris is just this tiny underdeveloped penis. It's like, no, we have all this erectile tissue, but it is surrounding the vagina, but it is not the vagina itself, which is what a lot of people thought, that it's your internal penis that would have these nerve endings and stuff. And in fact, when there are some experiments done to try to find the areas that are stimulated, for most women, they're like really not feeling any particular sensation in the actual vaginal tissue.
Yeah, that's it's, like, literally very concentrated to that
Yeah,
area.
to the clitoris. But, well, anyway, we'll get
I don't
getting ahead of
yeah,
ourselves.
sometimes the whole labia and everything, like, feels really, really good. So it's just it does feel complicated. I get how we are complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or like people talk about erogenous stones, and obviously there are other ones that are not even connected to the clitoris whatsoever. Like nipples for other people can be
Yeah, some
other
people can get
places.
orgasms from nipples. Definitely the
Yes.
people in romantic books.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
exactly.
lot of nipple
Researchers
orgasms.
say that that's like pretty rare that people can have an orgasm that's completely without any kind of stimulation of the clitoris, which includes the whole internal part of it. But it is possible. Also, a fun fact that I learned
Okay.
while reading about this, have you ever heard people say before that the clitoris is more densely packed with nerve endings than the head of the penis?
I have, but it doesn't look like it's true or
Rachel Gross pointed out that no one has actually done a study comparing the two, which again
oh,
is just
okay.
like this whole dark black box of female pleasure related stuff. Although it is true, the piece about the clitoris being the only organ that exists solely for pleasure. So yeah, so it's actually not the vagina that is erectile, nor is it particularly sensitive. So when you are experiencing like what people think of as vaginal orgasms, it is actually the stimulation of the clitoris, that like erectile tissue that's around the vagina, because pressure on that can be felt through the vaginal wall. And so that is actually what you are experiencing, is stimulation of the clitoris.
This
Um,
makes more sense to me because I feel like when I orgasm through sex, it is all, like, in the times when, the other thing is also happening.
Yeah, and that's Masters and Johnson's point. It all comes back to the clitoris. So even if you're like feeling the contractions other places, all that stimulation is tied back to the clitoris in the terms of that being that whole organ.
Ugh,
And so
science.
O'Connell refers to this as a clitoral complex to explain the whole interconnected network of tissues, which responds as one to arousal. And I did love the term clitoral complex, especially because it made me think of like, like Oedipus complex or whatever. And I'm like, I hope we can start to talk about men having a clitoral complex the same way that we talk about women supposedly having penis envy.
I love just explaining to him, like, "This is my clitoral complex,
And
and you
it's
have to
very
stay in this
complex.
area." Yeah.
So you have to learn how it works. Okay, so that was just our background that we needed to understand when we take up the question of the G spot, which is something that Dr. O'Connell turned her research to, thanks to an intrepid journalist that kept bugging her with questions about the G spot. I can only imagine that this was a cosmopolitan
I kind of
journalist.
hope that it is a cosmopolitan journalist because it would make me think like, "Oh, they're really working on this
I would
spot," and
actually
it
be
is
really pleased to
yeah.
hear that they're actually asking questions to legitimate researchers about the G spot and not just posting articles about how to have your man curl his
Oh
fingers
my
to
gosh,
titillate
please
your
do
G
not
spot.
like, nobody has better trimmed, cleaner nails than Mr. K, and I was still like, "Okay, we're not gonna do that one again."
Yeah, I mean, it's just like your nails, if you're curling your fingers around, even if your nails are completely short, you're just like at the exact angle where you're just gonna be like scrape, scrape, scrape.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Ugh. Okay, so let's talk about the G spot, which is theoretically located about a third of the way up
Mhm.
and on the like front or belly side of your vagina. Which most people do notice that there is like a different texture to the vaginal wall
Yes,
there.
I
Yeah.
investigated the texture.
Yes. Um,
Slightly bumpy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And Do you know why it is called the G spot?
Doesn't I don't know. G is some word.
You're never gonna guess if you don't know because it is the Grafenberg spot, which
Is it named after a man?
oh, totally. Ernst Grafenberg, who is the gynecologist who comes up with the idea. But a much better branding campaign that it is called the G spot. It is called the G spot and it is actually popularized by a woman. So that's cool. So Dr. G is also perturbed by the question of why women don't get their fair share of orgasms. And so he's a gynecologist who leaves Germany with the whole Nazi situation and sets up shop in New York. So by the 1950s, we're starting to get some helpful research. We have Kinsey's research coming in at the time. So this is where he does the experiment where he's stroking different parts of the anatomy with glass, metal, or cotton-tipped probes
Of a human's anatomy.
of
All
a
right.
human. Yes, this is all yes.
Uh,
And I am just picturing this as a pap smear because you know how they have that, like, giant
uh,
Q-tip that they, like, scrape over your cervix when you get a pap
well,
smear?
this is basically if you were sitting with a cotton tip over a penis that was totally soft, because there's no way that any woman was turned on while this doctor is sitting there with his Q-tip.
Yes. Although I think that his point is whether you feel sensation there, not whether you're
Oh.
like, "Oh, yeah." But he's just noting where you, feel sensation. So he says almost all the women feel some sense of touch on their clitoris. Again, it's not like pleasure, it's just like sense of touch. And only 14% are aware of their vaginas being touched, which is kind of interesting. But if you think about it, like, I had a question. Can you feel a man ejaculating, like, the actual ejaculation if he is inside you? Because I feel like I cannot. I mean, I'm aware that it's happening by other, like, signs in the room, but I don't f and I think that men probably think that women can feel, like, the spurting of the jizz. I don't actually feel that part.
Yeah, that's very fair. I guess I really can't.
Yeah. I mean, like, you're aware that the guy is orgasming because it's, like, pretty easy to
Ugh,
tell. But I do think that it's like men could fake it more easily than they actually think because 'cause they're like, "Oh, men can't fake it because you can't fake, like" but, you're not actually, like, aware of the moment when I mean, he'd have to, like, turn away really fast so that you don't see that he's, like, not rock hard, and you would wonder,
Yes.
like, why there's not very much.
Yeah, this is fair. Whereas theoretically, if somebody was like, letting loose directly on your clitoris or like on your boobs, you would feel the splash of the
Yeah,
cream.
it'd be right there in front of your eyes too. Also lends a little bit more to, like, Daphne and Bridgerton not being a total idiot when she didn't realize that he wasn't coming inside her, because honestly, I feel like if a guy rolled away really quick and did it
Well,
in a
she didn't
sock.
realize that like there was cum.
I
Daphne
mean,
was
she had other
problematic.
fundamental
Yeah.
issues with her understanding of the whole
As
thing, but yes.
somebody coined her too stupid to live. And that might be Daphne's
Okay,
case.
that might still be accurate. I'm just trying to give her a little bit of a break. Yeah, so anyway, Dr. G concludes that this is an insensitive orifice. But what I think is interesting is he doesn't leave it there, which I have to believe just goes back to the whole male obsession with, like, women being able to orgasm from a deep dicking. So he goes back to research this some more after deciding that it's an insensitive orifice. And he notes that, like the male urethra, the female urethra is surrounded by erectile tissue that swells during arousal. So he coins the sexy name urethral erotic zone and says that all women have one, and some women can have orgasms with stimulation to their urethral erotic zone. Terrible branding, Dr. Grafenberg.
Why do we have to use such horrible words for like women being turned on and everything?
I know. Um,
Urethral erotic zone.
He's also and I didn't know this association with the G spot, but in my, like, Cosmo reading to this day, there's still a lot of association with this being, like, a very wet orgasm, or, like, that this is for some women, like, they are squirting. He doesn't say squirting, of course, but that he's like, "Oh, they're drenching whatever is the sheets under them when they achieve this urethral erotic zone orgasm." So there is this association from the beginning of it being a very wet orgasm, and for a lot of women, the only way that they're squirting. Um,
Yeah, I there seems to be a big thing with squirting, and I don't do we have this feels like a separate episode, but squirting is not common.
It is not, I don't think, but I guess neither is a G-spot orgasm, so I don't know. And I think that that maybe makes it more attractive for men is that it's this mythical pinnacle of Mount Olympus that only some men can get a woman to achieve,
Well,
when
no,
really
some men are
might
just
more be,
with
like, specific
women.
to that woman
Yeah.
of whether or not she can do that. So he's basically like, "Women aren't getting satisfied during sex because you, men, haven't located the mythical G-spot." No one appears to care at this time until along comes a woman with a branding campaign, named Beverly Whipple, a Rutgers sexologist who is also a nurse practitioner working with women with urinary incontinence.
Hmm.
And she notices some women are only leaking fluid during intercourse and looks into it and finds a similar spot that swells during arousal.
Huh. But what is the fluid? Is
That's
that it's like the fluid like wetness or is the fluid like pee?
I feel like maybe they didn't know at the time, and that was the whole confusion, and probably because there was, like, less conversation about women that during sex, and so maybe a lot of them were like, "I peed myself."
Hmm. I did pee myself 2 weeks ago during foreplay. It was I'll the story for a different day, I guess.
That is impressive, but I think
Yeah.
also a reminder that it's never too late to go to a pelvic floor therapist
I
after giving birth to 2 children.
the I can explain this very quickly, which is that I purposely like to be extremely hydrated before sex because I think that it, like, increases the
Oh,
overall
yeah,
pressure
yeah,
and
you said
hydration
that.
in that area. But the issue was that I started laughing really, really, really hard because I played a prank on Mr. K, and while laughing that hard, while also, like, being that full of pee and turned on, it just, like it was, like, I don't know, enough of a drop, like a little like a 4 centimeters in diameter pee thing. I had to change the
Oh,
sheets like a baby.
okay. Yeah. I mean, when you have kids, you have waterproof covers on all of the mattresses in the house, so it's really nothing.
Yeah, for the kids, for the moms.
Yeah. So we have to credit Beverly Whipple for a much better marketing campaign. She gets on Donahue. She says that you stimulate this area, and what happens is like you can orgasm very rapidly, usually within minutes, and potentially you can have multiple or more frequent orgasms. She notes that missionary position just doesn't do it. Again, I feel like a lot of this is very complicated ways to be like men, lay off of the missionary position. So her first idea of what to call this is the Whipple tickle. Thank you, history, for not calling it that, which apparently was because there was already a Mr. Whipple in a Charmin commercial, but
I
also that's a
don't I
creepy
don't
name.
I
You're
don't
just
know.
like,
I think I like it.
okay. Well, you always have I feel like the Mr. Whipple of Charmin has died in the, like, graveyard of history of commercials history.
Oh
So
my
now you
gosh.
can definitely bring it back.
Whipple tickle.
So she rolls with the Grafenberg spot. Luckily for us, it's later shortened to the G spot. And then this is her ticket. So she goes on to write an entire book, and forms what becomes the genesis of all of our Cosmo articles.
Well, hmm.
But is it real? So, researchers do notice that there is a spot here with slightly different texture, like you described, a little bit firmer. I think adding to the lore is this is such a Florida man story. In 2012, a Florida gynecologist goes to Poland, presumably to avoid US laws on cadaver research, and claims to have found it and dissected it in an 83-year-old woman. So he like describes what the actual tissue is like there.
Ugh.
I won't go into the details because it sounds gross when he like dissects it. Um, but it should be noted in classic Florida man style, he is also a plastic surgeon who offers a variety of genital services, including a G spot plasty. So we can
Ugh.
basically dismiss this unhelpful
Do
research
not get
as,
surgery on your vaginal walls and expect it to turn out well.
yeah, exactly.
Expect the sex to be easier for you afterwards.
So grifting goes even as far as the mythical G spot. We can ignore him. O'Connell dives in, and she notes that this is an interesting thing that might connect in the bulbs of the clitoris, which is basically, these kind of like tulip bulb pieces that go on either side of the vagina and like the vaginal walls. And that they're like the tissue that most has the capacity for growth and changing shape. So in anatomy books before this, they are labeled usually in a different color, like it's maybe a separate organ. And Cobalt, who is the guy who thought that he discovered the clitoris, in typical male fashion, thinks that it's something that's there for the man, that it's basically to give this tightness and ability to squeeze, your favorite, Kay,
I don't mind
to the
squeeze in
walls.
that context. I don't mind squeeze in the vaginal walls because I already know the vaginal walls and I already know that they can only like actually squeeze so much. And it's a very
Uh-huh.
pleasant, warm sensation, but kind of the same
I
with
think
like the
that's
finger
fine.
curling in there. I don't want to think of like a
Claws.
hand. Yeah.
Claws, talons.
Yeah, a hand with big manicured nails squeezing a penis. It's ow. I feel
Fair,
bad for them.
fair, or
Yeah.
unmanicured nails.
Yeah, you're
But
right. I'm looking at your manicured nails. I
oh,
don't
thank
know.
you.
Yeah.
I feel like they are a little bit too long, and they would definitely scratch somebody's vaginal walls if I was clawing around for their G
Yeah, don't
spot.
curl.
Don't worry, I will not come after your G spot with these nails. But I do feel like that's very typically male to be like, "Oh, what is this here for? It must be there for giving the man a nice little squeezer." So when
It's
she's
all about me.
I know. Dr. O'Connell's looking at this and she's like, it's all one organ. It all comes back, connects in the same place. It's made of the same spongy erectile tissue. And it is basically the homologue for the erectile pillars of the penis, but they're splayed out instead of all in the column of the penis. So, in further MRIs and dissections, they conclude there's no other erectile or spongy tissue beyond the clitoris. But what we think of as the G spot might be where the body, arms, and bulbs of the clitoris all combine. Again, helpful to like reference a picture here if you're just listening. And they press up against the urethra, like between the urethra and the vaginal wall. So, while you're not actually feeling what might be a G spot sensation in the vagina, pressure in the area may be felt that is like pressing through to the clitoris there. And in some women, this can produce an intense sensation. So, according to Dr.
That
O'Connell,
makes
it's not an
sense.
actual anatomic construct, but I
Because
feel
I
like,
think we can all imagine, like, if you're like doggy style, for example, feels extremely good, and it's like or I think it feels
hmm
good, but, like,
for your particular anatomy.
yeah, but, you're very often like, the clitoris is not stimulated unless there's, like, extra action, being
hmm
supported by the partner there, and so I could imagine that being, like, this case of it, and I'm
Again, like,
Googling
yeah,
there.
the, like, particular angles, which, like, missionary is probably the worst for there being some way for the penis to actually, like, be pressing against that spot a little bit.
Yeah.
O'Connell points out that, like, the way those clitoral bulbs are positioned, it's not, like, exactly set up for a thrusting penis to be able to directly stimulate the area. Um but that it does, like, kinda just, like, fit into this whole myth about, men having to do very little in bed. Um, I was asking some men about, like, their knowledge of the G-spot and, like, where they first came to be aware of it, and there was some mention of pornography that's often sometimes in titles at least.
Oh, yeah, like, she gets her G-spot railed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So again,
I'm
it's
a
this idea that like men
jackhammer.
have to do
Yeah.
very little other than like jackhammer the woman and puts more of the pressure on women to have a certain type of sexual experience and to like be able to find pleasure. It's like, why aren't you finding being jackhammered enjoyable? It might have something more to do with you. They're like, oh, well, there isn't actually an anatomy of the G spot. But if that concept is helpful to you in deciding which positions in bed do provide more stimulation to wherever you are more sensitive to the internal parts of the clitoris, then, like, if that's a helpful construct for you and it's contributing to more personalized, exploratory sexual activities instead of one size fits all, like, you just have to, like, jackhammer her hard enough, then I feel like the G spot can be a helpful construct. We just need to get past the idea of like an either or with a vaginal or a clitoral orgasm. And the understanding is that it's all interconnected together and that, like, for each person, you're going to experience it a little bit differently. Ms. Whipple, who is now 87, or she was at the time of the book. I haven't checked if she's still alive. Also was like kind of annoyed how much the G spot became a focal point and the idea of it being like a spot or a button rather than like an erogenous area.
Okay, I
Um,
appreciate that, Miss Whipple.
yeah, so she says that this was oversimplified, and she made this whole, like, extra genital matrix, which is a grid of I just, like, wanna hang out
I
this, like,
love
Dr.
that, yeah.
Ruth-esque, like, old woman, a grid of 35 body parts and types of touches meant to help couples figure out what they like. And she says, personally, she loves her husband to suck on her big toe, but we're all different.
Oh, I hope that she was being sarcastic with that.
No, I think she's being
Oh
serious.
my gosh, I had the most
People like that.
disturbing book. It was by, this author, I think T.L. Swan. The reason why I read them, sorry, T.L. Swan, you also the books are good enough, but the main thing is that the audio comes free with the book,
Oh,
and so it
mhm.
makes it really easy for me to, do mom
Yeah,
things while just listening, and, there is one scene where the guy is, like, fondling her boob, I mean, granted, through her shirt, but still,
'kay.
with his foot,
Ew.
and I just kept on saying that, and I'm like, "Can we just stop with the foot by the boob?" Like, no part of me
Sorry,
wants
I
a
retract my ew
male
because I don't
yeah.
wanna yuck someone else's yum, but, I think that foot, enjoyment is such an interesting one because people can be really like, I feel like there are very few people who feel neutral about foot stuff, right? Like, either it is a turn on for a certain subset of the population, or I feel like for me, foot stuff is like an utter turn off. Like, I don't want my foot or anybody's feet involved anywhere in the equation. So I just think
Yeah.
that that's very interesting because it's a very polarizing one.
I mean, they are what touches the ground, like, I just
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, again, I don't yuck
But
yum in a lot of different areas,
in the
but
Old
food wise,
Testament, the euphemism for sex is that a woman uncovered a man's feet, which I've never looked into why that is the particular euphemism phrase, and I
biblical
hope
sex
it's
is probably
because,
so dirty.
yeah, somebody was into foot stuff, although, yeah, their feet were probably particularly dirty, so they should not be doing foot
Ugh, all
stuff unless they, like,
callousy.
do some foot washing first. So just to give you a quick idea here, Kay, and anybody else who wants to look up the Whipple personal extragenital matrix, it is, like, literally just a whole chart where, like,
It is a matrix.
down one side is, like, every part of the body, and then, like, across the x-axis is every type of touch, and so I guess the idea is that you go through this with your, uh,
Oh,
sexual partner, and, just do a little, like, inventory here of what kind of touches you like, and hopefully, in this case, you're not doing it with a Q-tip in a clinical setting, and, could be a fun way for you to, like, explore.
I do like that a lot.
So I like
Oh,
her in general, her kind of evolution. I feel like that's like us as a society that's like instead of just overly focusing on this like one particular magic spot that you just have to hit just right, it is more of this idea of like mapping out your own personal body, being a wonderland, like John Mayer said.
I am a wonderland.
Thank you, John
Well,
Mayer.
that is wonderful. Thank you for all that we learned today. I will let people know that I read, like, I think my final Jessica Kane novella. I really think I was in like
I needed
some
to conclude
weird
the episode with
mental
this.
state that where I like was really enjoying it, and then like, I felt good about myself because last night I, picked one up to read, and I was like, "What? Why would I want these weird scenarios where, like, guy is always the daddy and the woman's always just turned 18?" And I felt like, "Okay, the fog has cleared. I'm coming out on the other side. I will not, like, forever be addicted to these, like, porn novellas." So, I'm healed for now. That doesn't mean I won't go back to them, but for this month, I don't need them.
It kinda sounds like the thing where, like, people overcome, like, smoking by, like, smoking so many cigarettes in a row that they get sick.
I read all of them, and then I came out and I was like, "Wait, no, I'm
Just,
not
like,
even feeling
take an
anything."
Adderall and read every Jessica Kane book that was ever written in a 24-hour period, and then you throw up, and then you're cured.
It's like, why is the guy like a dangerous, controlling stalker? Was this supposed to be sexy? What am I doing? And, yeah, so
But
here
you
I
know what?
am.
If it was sexy and you got it for free on Kindle Unlimited, then really
All
no
for
harm, no
free.
foul.
Yes.
Fantasy is a great way to explore.
Yeah, a week-long, sexcapade for me. Okay, well, thank you for all that we learned, SJ.
All right, well, next week, I'll let you report back. You can personally fill out your 35 by 35 maybe matrix of your personal, things. You don't have to
Mm.
share all the details, but, I feel like if I know anybody who would want to road test that matrix, it would be you, so
It feels like easy enough.
I'm looking at this chart and I am feeling my clit boner diminish immediately looking at it because unless you are like getting off on charts, which is some people, I feel like I look at this and I'm like, this is way too much thinking for me.
Well,
No thanks.
maybe
I'd rather just
we
read a Jessica
can.
Kane book
Yeah.
and not ask too many questions.
Oh my gosh, daddy. Well, have a great week, everybody. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, like, and follow. Well, subscribe and follow are the same thing, but you know what I'm saying.
All of those.
Bye.